Hi, I'm Annette, and welcome to this week's podcast. Welcome back, Reborn mummies and daddies, if you're there too. I know a few daddies, so I'm just saying that. Today I've got with me baby Jeffrey. Oh my God. Baby Jeffrey is very special to me, as are all my babies, but this one extra special. Now he's a cuddle baby. He's got a full cuddle body with a silicone head, and he's just so cute. He is named after my actual dad, my late father. And that's why I think he means so much to me. And just to cuddle from him, it's just like, I feel like I'm amongst my dad, and I just love how squishy he is and just everything about him. He's just so amazing. So I wanted to firstly thank you all so much for supporting my podcasts. I think this one today is up to our 14th podcast, and I've been really thankful for all of you who have spent time to watch the podcast. I do hope you try to watch the whole podcast from start to finish. I know sometimes things can get a little bit boring, but sometimes towards the end I might either be showing my podcast baby or talking about something that might be interesting to you, something that you might be able to share with your family or friends, especially within the Reborn community. And it's always great to know that I have that support system behind me, and that we're not just watching like a moment or two. So thank you so much for those of you who do watch all the way through. I do know a few of you, and thank you for the ones that have commented. So today we're going to talk about why it's such a taboo thing to take your reborn baby out. Now, we've talked about this so many times, and we've talked about, to try to turn a blind eye and to try not to think about what people are saying or thinking or looking at you, and reasons why we might take our reborns out, which, as we've spoken about before, could be many reasons. Could be grief, could be anxiety, depression, just the love of these beautiful, perfect artistry. There's many reasons why we might decide to take them out in public. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the stigma behind why it's so frowned upon to take your reborn out in public. Now, I've done a little bit of studying. So I'm going to talk about my studying, and through it I'm going to just pause every moment to check my notes so I know what I'm saying. Most of my podcasts I do, it's just total fluid talking. I normally know what I want to say and I just go with it. But for this podcast, I want to stop and check my notes for every little pinpoint I talk about, because I think it's really important and really interesting. Okay, so every time I stopped, I haven't gone away or I haven't sort of had a drink or anything like that, you'll see it stop and start with me again. And that's why I just want to get this perfect, so we all have a better understanding on this stigma. And having that better understanding may make you want to take your baby out, or it might make you just understand people around you and what they might be feeling and thinking as well. So let's get started. Okay, so when I talked about stigma, you might be thinking, what is Annette talking about stigma? I was having a really good think about this, and I thought, why is it such a big deal? And I think it goes back a long way. Obviously, way before we decided that we loved these beautiful, artistic, lifelike babies. And if you think about it, it's like a bit of a aha moment. Because think about in the early days, in the early 1900s, even the late 1800s, going into up until the 1970s, 1980s, okay? Back then, it was so easy for a woman to be institutionalized for the most minute things. And when we think about them today, we think, oh my God, those women are most likely, well, not most likely, but most of the time, just like us. Back in the day, did you know women were institutionalized for simple things that we go through and know of these days are things like menopause. Mate, I'm going through it right now. Do you want to commit me? My husband, Michael, come and commit me. Gosh, punch him in the nose. We're so much stronger these days too. More, I wouldn't really go, we're more feminists, but we're more aware of ourselves and our bodies. That would also be over time and scientific information and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, menopause, committed to an institution like a mental facility. Oh my God. Postnatal depression. Oh my God, those women were taken away from their babies because they had postnatal depression and they were classed as being hysterical. Think of it for a minute. It's mind-blowing and it also breaks your heart. It really breaks your heart. My God, so many women. PMS. My God. They were told that they were hysterical, anxiety, things we know more about these days, depression, just general depression. Women were even institutionalized for defending domestic duties and their social expectations. Let that sit for a minute. The men, and I don't want to put down men. I love men. I love my husband. And I think there's so many great men out there. But back in earlier days, the men were given more of a legal role to commit women. Their wives, their sisters, their mothers. What do you want to say about that? It's horrific. And to think, these men who, loved their women, were doing that. Half the time they're probably going back to the local brothel and getting a piece for themselves afterwards, which just makes you so angry in today's modern society because we're so much stronger these days. We don't put up with that kind of stuff. But when you really think about it, it just gets that anger inside of you for these women, right? Do you know 55 to 65% of women were institutionalized over the 40 to 45% of men. Let that sit with you. Now, the men, I told you, some of the things that the women were institutionalized, which are just like rubbish. The men were institutionalized over like severe mental illness. Not just mental illness, mind you, not just mental illness, severe mental illness. Also over alcoholism and violence, which, now that's a man thing, war trauma. All those three things, severe mental illness, alcoholism and violence, and war trauma, they're all legitimate things. They're all things where you can fully understand that they might need some help or assistance throughout those times. Not postnatal depression, menopause, or defying doing your domestic duties are big to you. But yeah, there were clearly interesting facts why they would be committed to an institution. Can you see where that is like so up and down? And it makes you even more angry because you think, well, those men deserved or needed to get that help. That was fine. But the women didn't. They needed help. They needed those beautiful nurses or midwives that want to help them through things. The understanding, continuity of care, those kind of people. And they could have stayed home and done the duties that they were doing anyway without being committed. And then when they were committed, filled with medication, even severely down to fact of lobotomies. Makes you want to cry 1,000 tears for those women. They were given medication to just make them, I don't know what they're doing, because, oh my God, they wouldn't need it. I know I'm going to get passionate about this, but I'm sure you are too, because it just saddens you to think about those women and you know, just being in a mental facility or some kind of institution and just thinking, I'm not that. Okay? Wow. Okay. So now let's do some pinpoints about why we as women or men, look, I know some fantastic guys who have reborn babies or reborn children who are fine. Now let's look about why we're frowned upon or judged for having a reborn baby, whether it's here or out in public. Okay, so one of the first things is just the social aspect of it. So most people, when they look at a reborn baby, they automatically already think of it as something to fulfill someone's grief or trauma. So they already sort of know that, okay? So these are sort of struggles that people don't openly like to talk about. Have you ever noticed when someone has a loss, say a loss of a family member, people don't want to talk about that family member anymore. They feel like talking about that family member to that person is going to make them break down or turn hysterical, right? We like to talk about it. We like to keep them alive, and we want to. It's not, you know. And people find it confronting. So they might call you weird or something because they find it confronting, because they don't know how to talk about it. It's themselves. It's not you. It's them themselves. They find it confronting. So they would call us weird. So there's a mental health stigma there where people who have reborn babies are either looked upon of either being crazy or unstable, right? So that shows a fundamental misunderstanding that people have about coping mechanisms, right? So the coping mechanisms about how we feel and what we need to do this. There can be therapy dogs, there can be therapy dolls. There's so many different things, but that just shows that misunderstanding within that realm of what it is like to use your coping mechanisms and how it can be so important. Also, there's expectations about women, right? So the expectations about women is quite narrow-minded, that we're going to be maternal and we're going to be only maternal with our biological children, and that's the way it goes. So if a woman steps out of that box and decides her own roles, decides her own paths, then that's unexpected, and people find that uncomfortable. They don't like that we go out of the box. There's unfamiliarity and ignorance. So if they don't know what a reborn baby is, never seen one before, don't know what it's about, then they might be a little bit judgmental and ignorant about it. And people show that uncomfortability by laughing, judging, pointing fingers, picking on you. But in some state of mind, it's basically just a reflection of them, not us. So they feel uncomfortable and they don't know what to ask and they don't know where to look, you know. So it's not us. It's them who's uncomfortable. There's also something that they call the public versus private divide. Okay, so basically grief, for instance, many people think grief has to be done only in private. It's not a public thing that we should be showcasing. And if we're trying to showcase that, then we're trying to act. We're acting. We're not being our authentic self. We're not being authentic. We're performing for people around us to try to get attention, right? It's not that at all. We're doing it for us. We're doing it for us. So when it comes down to it, the truth behind it, there's nothing dirty or rude about the comfort they bring us, or the comfort it brings grief, or anything like that. They can be coping mechanisms, therapeutic babies, and all of the above. A grief companion or a therapeutic anchor as well. The problem isn't within the reborn baby or ourselves. The issue isn't the doll. It's the social, public lack of understanding and compassion towards people. It's not the doll. It's the public. So if you think about it, how true is that? Like, how true is that? When someone pops up to you and will ask the question, they might be embarrassed. They don't know how to respond to their own emotions about how they feel about you holding a baby, or how they feel when they look at that baby. They might think, on the inside, they might be going, oh my God, but oh my God, that's embarrassing. I'm not going to show that. You look like an idiot. You know what I mean? It's in them. It's not in us. So be yourself. Be your true self. Be what you need to be. Take that baby out. And like we've talked about 1,000 times, you don't need to showcase your baby to the world. Sorry, baby Jeffrey has some bed hair at the back there. You can put him in a carrier. How many babies do you see in public that you actually go up to? Probably fairly few. So if I had Jeffrey in a baby carrier and I had his face, mostly covered, people would just go like that. They're not going to come up to me. They're not going to come up to me. Oh my God, you're so beautiful. And if they were, then I just have to simply use the words beautifully spoken by Patricia, one of my friends. They're a therapeutic baby. That word therapeutic automatically puts into their mindset that there's something that is helping you with that, within having that baby. It's not like, I've got a fake baby here, and then they've got something to laugh at you about. You've got a therapeutic baby, or a therapeutic doll, if you want to say that. I go out in public, obviously, all the time. And I have on my bag, especially these days, I've got a Labubu doll. Do you think people look at me as in being crazy for having that Labubu little toy on my handbag? They don't. They don't care. They just think it's fashion. They just think it's something I like. Well, why can't I take my baby with me? Right? And we talk about men and how men could have Hot Wheels cars and Lego. Women have Lego too. My best friend has Lego. They don't get frowned upon for buying that for themselves, do they? But they don't walk around in public with a big Lego car either, do they? So then it comes down to, why this? Where as children we don't get looked weirdly for taking our dollies to the shop, do we? It just comes down to people's knowledge about it, or not knowledge about it, and how it makes them feel. They might feel a bit embarrassed. They might feel a bit weird, or think it's a bit weird. They don't know how to respond. So that's what it's all about. It's not about the baby. It's not about our mental state. We don't need to be committed. We don't need to be committed. So, that's where we've got to look towards. Look towards it being someone else's problem and not yours. I also wanted to add in a quick response. I think it was last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I put a podcast up about the My Mini Babies. And if you go back to, I think on my TikTok, I had someone respond and they said, oh my God, this is a grown woman with these dolls, blah, 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 blah. Okay. How dumb, right? How dumb. I can have anything I want. I can have a packet of cigarettes if I want. You're going to jump on me about that. But the way they wrote it, I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically said a grown woman, they said something like, this is embarrassing, a grown woman with these little toys like that. You know what? I now know, I don't really care what she said anyway, but I now know it may have been her embarrassment of not to, how do I put one and one together? This is a woman and these adults. She was probably, I think, maybe a bit jealous. Maybe that's another aspect of this. People can be a little bit jealous and think, oh, well, the way I'm going to cope with this jealousy, then this horrible feeling that I'm feeling in my tummy about this, is I'm going to put her down. I'm going to make her look stupid. Think about that. That could be another way of people coping with their embarrassment about us having a reborn because they can't afford one themselves, or they wouldn't be able to get one. See, it's their mental state. It's like their fear around it, like how they feel, their feelings of how it makes them feel. They're unsure and don't know how to cope. So I hope that has given you a little bit more understanding towards the reborn baby as viewed in public, and what women in the past have gone through. I hope I haven't made you too angry or upset with what I talked about, because it is quite, huge. In these days, we don't talk about what happened in the past and how, quite upsetting it was and would have been. Could you imagine yourself being put in any of those situations, or someone you really love? Imagine, your sister having a baby and then going through postnatal depression and being institutionalized when she's normal, but the men in that family did that to her. Could you imagine that? Or your mum, or even your own child. Imagine that. Imagine seeing your child put in an institution with anxiety or depression. It's a lot to think about. Okay, I did want to show you my beautiful podcast baby. That's the baby that I'm making it's going to be a giveaway. If you have only watched this to the end for the first time, we'll be selling these tickets for $10 each. It's not together yet. I've had a bit of a low point for the last couple of days, so I haven't really been on point with my reborning. But the tickets will be $10 each, and all funds go towards Lisa's Lunches, which is an organisation in Ipswich raising funds to help families who are going through the processes of cancer treatment. Okay, so if you're interested in this baby, please drop me a line. If you have any questions about today's podcast or anything to add, please do. I always love to hear from you. And love to hear your points of view. You might have things that you know that I didn't know. Okay, thanks for watching. Stay warm if you're in Australia, because it's a little bit cold at the moment. Probably not as cold as it goes overseas, and we should be grateful about that, right? I'm going to rave on now. Thank you for watching again. Love seeing you, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Happy reborning.